Welcome to the Mischief Maker broadcast, where chaos, creativity, and common sense collide. Your host, Joel Freeman, was kicked out of high school in Alberta, Canada. He left home at 17 and hitchhiked around North America as a long-haired hippie and dope-smoking fool. He made a 180-degree change, becoming one of the first chaplains in the history of the NBA. As a professional speaker, Joel has traveled to well over 55 countries. His many books have been published in 28 foreign translations. Pieces from his Black History collection have been seen by millions at the United Nations and many other venues. And now, the Chief Mischief Maker himself, Dr. Joel A. Freeman.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the much older version of me. I'm looking off in the distance deliberately because I can see something huge is about to happen. Buckle up, stay tuned. He'll tell you all about it when it's time to tell you. Well, there we are. Baby Joel saying he'll tell you all about it when it's time to tell you. Tonight, we're going to talk with someone by the name of Dr. James Harrell. We call him Jim. And he's from the University of Toledo. For thousands of years, we have seen stones of ancient Egypt. They stood in silence, pyramids rising from the desert sands, obelisks piercing the night, and all kinds of different things all around Egypt. And there's one question I think that goes unasked. Where did the stones come from? Where did the rocks come from? And when there were pyramids, there were quarries, there were mines. And before the monuments, there were all kinds of places where the stone came from, which tells a huge part of the story. So today's guest, we're going to be talking about the decades that were spent by Dr. James Harrell, traveling, traversing all over Egypt. I think you'll find out he was able to unearth about 110 mines and quarries. He'll correct me on that number, I'm sure, if it's wrong. And he's crossed remote deserts and all kinds of situations. So we're going to be talking with him. But first, before we jump into that, I want to say that there's a QR code right above, and that QR code will take you to a link tree. It tells you all about the Mischief Maker Show. All the previous shows are on there. If you want to learn about the music, if you want to learn about the Rosetta Universe, which is our sponsor, if you want to learn about some other things, it's all there. And it'll be something I think that you'll really enjoy. Also, as a live viewer, and you know who you are, you have the ability to be able to ask questions. I consider you my safety net, that not if, but when I don't have the proper follow-up question or I'm missing something, you're there to help to make sure that this interview, this conversation goes in a direction that has the most benefit for everyone listening. And so please take advantage of that. Now we're going to go to a song. I just wrote this and produced it recently, been working on it for months. It's called Alex Haley, Roots and the Rosetta Stone. So Mel, let's listen to that song.
1964, London calling name, sent to chase a star of silver screen fame. Julie Christie filming, and the meeting never came. So he lingered to see spoils from the old world untamed. A guided tour pause in the museum hall, where a fractured black tablet made Alex recall. Some codes hide quiet till the right key is turned. Every locked up past waits to be known. From bloodline whispers to a world of stone, roots speak loud through the Rosetta Stone.
card from a distant time. Hieroglyph, demotic, and Greek in a line. Champagne, listen where others guess. Let the known words lead them into the rest. Secrets unlocked, Egypt became the trend. What was sealed by time came alive again.
30,000 feet on the flight back home. That stone kept tapping in his mind like a drum. King Tay said his name, cold from the tone. Can be Bolonga where the deep waters run.
Fragments of language, broken but strong. A map in the music of a mother tongue.
Some codes hide quiet till the right key is turned. Every locked up past waits to be known. From bloodline whispers to a language on stone. Roots speak loud through the Rosetta Stone.
Hitting Tennessee, Mo's voice is gone. Only cousin Georgia's still holding on. 80 years heavy, bedridden and afraid. Till Africa stirred when telling a tale.
She sat straight up when Africa was named. And the past caught fire in the words she claimed.
No charts, no ledgers, no paper trail. Just scattered clues that refuse to fail.
The UN and Hamilton, one face at a time. Till Gambia answered what the world declined.
One man heard home in the words he said, and the door swung wide to the names of the dead.
Some codes hide quiet till the right key is turned. What was taken can still be grown. From porch-lit tales to a journey full-blown. The roots of Alex Haley and the Rosetta Stone.
Well, that's the world premiere of that song being shown today for the first time on this show. And that came out of, I've been talking with Alex Haley Jr., who is, Bill Haley Jr., Alex Haley's grandson. And he's on our advisory board, as Dr. James Harrell is also on our advisory board. And what happened is that he ended up, we were talking about, I bumped into this story about how this Rosetta Stone was at the very root of roots. And it blew my mind because I never heard it before. And so I've written a little booklet about it. We're going to do it online. And then this song, it's the story behind the song. And the song's the story behind the story. So I hope you enjoy that. And also the little visual adventure at the very end, the last 10 seconds. I hope you enjoyed that also. So get ready. By the way, I'd like for you to subscribe, like, and comment below, and let us know what you're thinking, and I hope you're enjoying the show. Right now, we're going to bring on Dr. James Harrell. We'll call him Jim. And welcome to the show, Jim. It's been a joy getting to know you. You serve on the advisory board, and you've been so helpful with this whole project, the Rosetta Universe. I'd like to kind of take a step back, and you're in Toledo tonight at your office there at the University of Toledo. as a professor emeritus. I'd like for you to kind of step back and what first sparked your interest in geology, and how did that evolve into a lifelong focus in archaeological geology, if that's the correct term?
Actually, my original interest, my first love, was archaeology. And that began around when I was 10. Three things happened at around that same time. One, I was a coin collector and I got a Roman coin in a trade. And it just blew my little mind. I mean, I was holding in my hand something that a Roman had held in his hand 2,000 years earlier. And as a young kid, it just was mind blowing. And the other thing was I saw the movie, The Time Machine.
Uh-huh.
And I was given a fossil that had a banner written across it, 1 million years old. So I was obsessed with time travel. And as the years passed, I learned that real time travel is not possible. But the next best thing is to study history, both geological and archaeological. And that's how it all began. And for my first few years in college, I was an archaeology major. And I only switched to geology, my second love, because that's where the jobs were.
So do you have your parents, do you have siblings? Were they all, how did they help you lean into archaeology?
I can only credit my mother because she had an interest in ancient history, and she would buy the Time Life books on ancient civilizations. And as a kid, I would read them. I say I read them. I probably looked at the pictures more than I read them, but I was impressed by them. And it helped fuel my interest in all things old.
Wow. So that's quite something to have a mother that is helping you to in kind of fanning the flame, if you will.
Yeah. No, I credit her with it because I probably wouldn't have gone in that direction without her pushing me there.
Now, how do you explain archaeological geology, and why is it essential to understanding ancient Egyptian culture and the mores and folkways of the ancient Egyptian peoples?
Well, if you think about it, ancient Egypt, ancient Rome, any ancient civilization, what has survived from these cultures more than anything else? It's stone. They're building stones, they're ornamental stones, they're gemstones, they're utilitarian stones. And so the biggest part of what we know about ancient Egypt or any ancient culture is written in the stone. And so my interest has been to basically read the stone. Much like reading the Rosetta Stone, I try to read other stones for what they can tell me about the people who made them, the events of the time, and so forth.
And making the shift from archaeology to including geology as a specific discipline within archaeology, how did that emerge?
Well, actually, archaeological geology is a fairly new field of geology, not archaeology. So maybe 30 years ago, geologists were getting asked by archaeologists, hey, what is this stone? Where do you think it came from? And that was sort of the beginning of it. And that's how I got drawn into it. And then geologists became members of archaeological teams. I've been on many excavation teams because, like I said, most of what remains from ancient cultures is stone. And so the archaeologists need to have geologists on their team to tell them what these stones are, what their properties are, and if they know, where they came from. So it's really quite natural, I think, that geologists would work with archaeologists. And of course, it's also fun. I mean, if, most geologists will go out into the wilds and they're climbing mountains or looking at rock outcrops, and that can be nice. But if you can bring in the human dimension, the ancient history, that makes it so much more fun. So.
And how did your academic path prepare you, or not prepare you, fail to prepare you for the field work in Egypt itself?
Well, so I had a basic background in archaeology from my undergraduate studies. I did end up minoring in archaeology, but majored in geology. And I was in an experimental program as an undergraduate. And any students listening to this will think this sounds wonderful. We didn't have lectures. We didn't have tests. And this was the 1960s. And Joel, I know as in the lead-in said you were a hippie of the 60s. Well, I guess I sort of was too. And this was an experimental program that was an outgrowth of the 60s. And the idea was that the professors are not professors, they're facilitators. That they're there to help us to learn. And so in my undergraduate education, I decided what I wanted to learn. The professors, facilitators helped me realize that. They advised, they didn't tell. And we learned about rocks and minerals by going outside into the wild to find them, bring them back to lab, study them ourselves. So when I graduated with my undergraduate degree, I was thoroughly versed in field work. I didn't know anything else, actually. And then as you go into the master's and the Ph.D., it just more and more field work. So by the time Egypt came along, it was not a challenge to go into the field. The challenge was going into the field in Egypt. It's different than the U.S., of course. Very different.
So, I've been to Egypt. I went north to Alexandria and then over to Fort Rashid, which used to be called Fort Julian and Rosetta. And it was, oh my goodness, I remember going to the Red Sea and I thought, I just changed into my swimming trunks. I can walk across the sand to the Red Sea, go swimming without my flip-flops. And I got 2 steps in and it just was tearing up my feet. I had to run back. I felt like, I was in junior high or something like that. It was just crazy. And then we were going somewhere else in Egypt. I can't remember where, but we didn't have air conditioning in the taxi. And it was like having someone putting a hairdryer on high and blowing directly into my face with the window open, because we thought, okay, leave the window closed or open it and let the hot air come in. I don't know which was better, to be honest with you. So give us a feel for traipsing across deserts and all kinds of different places. What's the field work like in Egypt as you're traveling about?
Well, so for many years, my work was centered in the deserts. And so my strategy was, well, I should back up and point out my reason for being in the desert was I was exploring for ancient mines and quarries. So there are the rocks and minerals that the ancient Egyptians used. The question then is, where did they come from? And it's not just where they came from, but what was there. Ancient mines and quarries with ruins, with inscriptions. It's part of the story of ancient Egypt, and that had been overlooked. So I went into the desert looking for these places. And my strategy was to first search out the Bedouins who lived in the deserts. They had herds of cattle, camels, goats, and sheep. And I would find these people. I'd sit down with them. We'd drink tea and we'd talk. Because the Bedouins, you see, roam everywhere in the desert. There's nothing there that they haven't seen. Now, they may not have thought anything about it particularly. And so I would tell them what I'm looking for. I would show them pictures of, say, maybe stone columns that were lying in a quarry or tool marks that might be seen in a quarry to jog their memories. And they started telling me stories. And then I'd say, take me there, please. And they did. And I made many discoveries that way, simply by asking the Bedouins. So in a sense, I discovered these sites, but really Uh, they were already known to the Bedouins. I merely, found them later on. So we spent, I spent literally about 2 years of my life in the Egyptian deserts, and we camped out, and and because I was a university professor, I could only do this in the summer when I
Phew.
was free, and it was hot. And camping in, I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about with that wind. I likened it to standing in front of a blast furnace. I mean,
Yes,
it's just
that's more appropriate.
incredibly hot, and there's you can't get away from it.
Yeah.
But I was younger then. I don't know if I could handle it now, but it was dry heat, and I was able to work through it. And I can only remember one day when the heat actually got to me. But very often it'd be 110, 115, and I'd be working in the desert. And I mean, that's unpleasant, yes, but the work was so exciting that it propelled me through that. I mean, it wasn't an issue.
It's the whole thing about hydrate, right? You got to keep, because if you don't, it'll catch up with you and knock you down, and New York second.
And one day I wasn't properly hydrated. I was in the desert by myself, and that was nearly the end of me. It was a bad experience.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah.
Well, Ahmed Dillon, he's asking, is it true that hard granite for pyramid burial chambers was transported from Aswan over 500 miles away, all moved via barge on the Nile and sleds on land? How did they lift the stones?
Well, that's...
Thank you, Ahmed.
It is absolutely true that they did move granite down the Nile River that far. And people are still debating how they then lifted them up, get them into the pyramids. And there are a lot of very elaborate ideas out there. Some of them are crazy, and a lot of them overlook the simple reality of the situation. The ancient Egyptian people were very smart, and they could do wondrous things with nothing more than a lever and rope and muscles and wooden sleds. And if you have time and you have enough people, you can move these heavy blocks of stone across sandy ground on sleds, and you can lift, and we're still not totally clear how they did it, but you can lift them up the sides of the pyramids, maybe up ramps, maybe they had lifting devices. But with their simple technology and their native intelligence, they could do it. They obviously did do it. So we're still trying to figure out some of the details, but a lot of people working on that.
And I know that I know on the Temple Mount, there's a stone on the Herodian Mount that was set up for the new temple. There's one stone that's like 52 tons, and it's just, I can't even imagine how that got lifted in place. And it just, I know on the Giza Plaza, I think it was one of Napoleon's savants figured out that the stones were about, 2.5 tons. A lot of the stones were 2.5 tons, but he figured out that all the stone on the Giza Plaza could have built a stone wall around the entire country of France, 10 feet tall, 1 foot wide. That was one thing I read. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but it's just mind-boggling regardless.
Yeah. I never did that particular calculation, so it could be true. I don't know. But the weight of the stones you mentioned are actually small compared to what some of the stones weighed that the Egyptians moved. I've seen a block still in the quarry that would have weighed about 500 tons.
My goodness.
Now,
my goodness,
that is more weight than your typical 18-wheeler on the highway could carry.
Yeah.
And you will see these trucks on the highway that do have extra heavy loads with extra wheels. So they're 18-wheelers. I don't know what they're 30-wheelers, and they couldn't carry 500.
No.
And yet the Egyptians were moving them. It's amazing. It's amazing. But again, if you got time, you got muscle, you got levers, you got ropes, and a few things to ease the way, you can do it.
It is amazing, isn't it? We think we're advanced in this with our technology, and yet we don't have things that could even come close to moving some of the things that they moved back in ancient times.
That's right. That's right. And that's why people just find it hard to believe that the Egyptians built their pyramids. They had to have help from, the lost Atlanteans or extraterrestrials and so forth. No, we fail to appreciate what can be done with simple tools, and determination
and human ingenuity. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been as you have, I'm sure, the Great Pyramid, and there's air shafts that point to constellations, and it's just all kind of connected to the astronomy in the heavens. It's advanced. It's just amazing information.
Well, the Egyptians were certainly clued into the heavens. They had a very sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics. They had the 12-month, 365-day calendar. I mean, whether certain air shafts or other objects in the ancient Egyptian landscape pointed to this or that constellation or sunrise or sunset, is sometimes debated. Sometimes it's clearly demonstrated.
Here's another question from Kent Coleman. Stonehenge is mystifying, like the Egyptians. How did they lift the stones and create the architecture as an astronomical observatory? Thank you, Kent.
Well, so if the question is about how they lifted the stones at Stonehenge, probably, and the Egyptians probably did it the same way. It's just that we don't have any direct evidence of it, but it's been shown in experiments that you can lift these heavy weights by putting layers of wood beams underneath a stone, and then with levers, lifting one corner, slipping something under that to hold the lift, and then going to another corner, levering that up, putting something under it to keep that part raised, and just constantly back and forth, gradually, incrementally lifting these objects. And you could lift, the largest stones at Stonehenge by that means. Now, the Egyptians surely did that, but they also had other ways of lifting stones simply by using the force of sand. So, yeah, again, the Stonehenge, builders had basically the same technology as the Egyptians, and they just used it a little bit differently, created very different looking monuments, but still just as awe-inspiring.
Well, Jim, we're going to take a break for our sponsor and come back. When we come back, I want to ask you about the Rosetta Stone and where you believe they got the Rosetta Stone, which quarry, and talk about some of the quarries and some other types of things, some of the adventures you've experienced. So, Mel, let's go to our sponsor, the Rosetta Universe.
May the stone be your guide. May the stone be your guide. With the key inside. With the key inside. Trust the process. Great things take time. That history provides. Rosetta. There's a key to the code. Rosetta. The patience of a seed when it grows. Rosetta. Some way, somehow, it already knows. Rosetta. That even as a promise, it's a soul. Rosetta. Series nice, AI saves time, but none of it replaces the computer of the mind. The bridge to the past and the future is the same. Rosetta. My love, everything is in the name. Recognize the problem and analyze the plan. Why is where I want to be, not where I am. Every new turn finds me in the same jam. $1 million question, maybe I should phone a friend. A bad apple just might be rotten at the core. A resolution won't reveal itself till I'm sure. A head in the sand never will see the sun. Some episodes require reviewing season 1. Obtain information, be clear about the issue. Take your time, same time, beware of its misuse. Research all information that's available. Books online, experts, every data pool. Brainstorm, seek feedback, then observe. Reflect on experiences, then network. Model simulate to advance in the journey. Stay up on the latest, continue in the learning. Specify the goals, define finish line. Criteria to measure progress in real time. Study all resources to keep it realistic. Deadlines, keep urgency at close distance. Prioritize and try not to think too much. Yeah, trust what you see and don't blink too much. 2,000 years silent, 23 to understand. Planet rejoice, ancient Egypt speaks again. Rosetta, there's a key to the code. Rosetta, the patience of a seed when it grows. Rosetta, some way, somehow, it already knows. Rosetta, that even as a promise, it's a soul. Rosetta, series nice, AI saves time, but none of it replaces the computer of the mind. The bridge to the past and the future is the same. Rosetta, my love, everything is in the name. Evaluate options, pull a scale out, yeah. Which is still fishy, how to get a smell out, yeah. Weigh different solutions, give each a score. Pros and the cons, press each to see more. Cost, feasibility, impact and time, sustainability, are there more facts to find? Choice, benefits, plus strengths and the weaknesses. Which is in the lead and which is being more sheepish. Test the solution, try to prove it wrong. Champollion was closest, but his stand wasn't alone. His theories were evaluated at the tan and stone. See, never fall for trying to do it all on your own. Take action, meaning it's time to implement a detailed plan with the steps to represent. Assign roles to the team, KPI. Some of the best answers come in late replies. Assess the results, the final steps upon you. A matrix of metrics is what it all comes to. What are your indicators? Since 1822, we've used the same key to learn all the fundamentals. A stone spoke 3 ways, we knew the first 2. Tried but couldn't come up with an alternative truth. Technology is beautiful and lovely, but it can never match that feeling of discovery. Rosetta, there's a key to the code. Rosetta, the patience of a seed when it grows. Rosetta, some way, somehow, it already knows. Rosetta, that even as a promise, it's a soul. Rosetta, series nice, AI saves time, but none of it replaces the computer of the mind. The bridge to the past and the future is the same. Rosetta, my love, everything is in the name. What's the solution? Solution. Problems are easy. What's the solution? What's the solution? What's the solution? Problems are easy. What's the solution? Hey, may the stone be your guide. With the key inside. Trust the process. Great things take time. That history provides. Rosetta.
On a previous show, we had Mark SX on the show, and he's the one who wrote and produced that particular song called Rosetta, the Key. And it's all about the Rosetta Universe project that is the sponsor of this show. And we're very pleased, James, Dr. Harrell is on our advisory board, along with Smokey Robinson, Kathy Hughes, and Ben Carson, and a host of others. And we're just getting things ready for something wonderful. You can go to the QR code above or go to rosettauniverse.com to learn more. Now, Jim, we have this, I think you've received one of these. These are the belt, and it's the Jack Johnson belt. And the reason why we have that at this point is because there's only 700 of these being made, and they're going to be you can only get them by making a donation to the foundation, and then they're yours. Each one hand numbered, hand crafted, and they are heavy and elegant. And I think you'll love it.
I haven't received mine yet.
Oh,
but when I do, I'm certainly going to be making a donation. You can be sure.
Oh no, you don't have to make a donation.
Well, I want to, because it's worthwhile.
It's our thank you. If you could give us thank you. It's when we talk about the Rosetta Stone, and I remember when I sent you a high-res scan of the stone, you immediately came back by either email or text, I can't remember which, and you knew exactly where the Rosetta Stone was, from which it was, the mine from which it was quarried. Can you give us a little bit of the process you went through in figuring that out, and tell us the name of the quarry, please?
Okay. I wouldn't say I knew exactly where it came from, but I have a good idea. So I have worked all over the Aswan area. There are ancient quarries there for granite and a related rock, granodiorite, what a lot of people just call black granite. But there are other kinds of rocks there, and I've worked in all that area, so I had a good idea of what was there and where it could be found. And the granodiorite that the Rosetta Stone is carved from is one variety of this rock at Aswan. It comes in many different color varieties. And so I had only seen that one variety, like in the Rosetta Stone, in one place in the Aswan area. And that's Ibrahim Pasha mountain, or Jebel Ibrahim Pasha. And then I had shown you a picture of a block of stone in that quarry that looked just exactly like the Rosetta Stone. So that's probably where it came from. But see, the problem is that most of the ancient quarries have been destroyed in Aswan. They're still being worked today. And so it would be hard to actually pinpoint the location at this late date. But I think we can be fairly confident that Ibrahim Pasha area was the likely source.
What was the most, thank you, what was the most difficult site that you worked on, and why?
I suppose maybe there've been a lot of difficult ones, so I have to sort through which one hurt more. The most difficult probably was a Roman quarry known as Mons Porphyrides. The Egyptians call it Gebel Dokan, Smoking Mountain. And it's difficult because it's mountainous. And the Roman quarries were on top of the mountains. So you have to climb the mountains to get to them. Now they had ramps and footpaths, but they're steep. And again, you're doing this in the summer and you're climbing, 1,500 feet. That didn't sound like much, but when it's at like 45-degree angle, it's really tough. And so, we camped out there, and every day we had to climb up the mountains and climb back down. And I thought that was about as grueling as it could be. And I made a return visit there just a few years ago, just to see if I could still climb the mountain. And I could, but just barely. So, yeah. And it's also one of the most beautiful places in the desert. These wild, lofty mountains, and all these Roman ruins on the valley floor below the quarries, and then the stone itself, this beautiful purplish red imperial porphyry. You see so much of it in Rome and elsewhere in the ancient Roman Empire. Yeah.
Now, I was recently with my wife and another couple in Jordan and Israel, and we went to a place called Timnah in South Israel. And they were saying that our guide was telling us that Egyptians extracted copper from Timnah for many years, and then they stopped at somewhere around 1440 BC. And they believed it's because that could have been the time of the exodus of the Hebrews from Egypt, and that there was some dramatic change that took place in Egypt around that time. My question is this: were you able to note any biblical, extra biblical, historical events that somehow, through your understanding of stone and where things were quarried and when projects were stopped or started, it kind of intersected with some dramatic historical event?
Can't say that I have. I have done research and published on biblical gemstones. Many of them did come from Egypt, but there was nothing I saw in the field that led me to that. There were other ways to that conclusion. I did once look for part of a missing stela, a rock cut inscription, very much like the Rosetta Stone, but still attached to the mountainside. And one corner had broken off. And it broke off in the middle of a word that Egyptologists think meant Israelites.
Mm-hmm.
And no one was sure because part of it was missing. And I actually dug for it. It was on the bottom of this narrow ravine, and floods have no doubt washed it away. It's still there somewhere. Someone will find it, but that is, if that could be found, that would be probably one of the best examples of, a knowledge of ancient Israel in Egypt. But no, as far as shining any light on ancient Israel, I can't say that I have. I am aware of Timnah and the copper mines there, but yeah, and I actually once, for a friend, did travel around Sinai. She asked me, okay, as a geologist, what would be the most likely path that the Hebrews in exile would have followed? It's a difficult question, but she had some specific sites in mind. Could this accommodated X amount of Jews, and I did look at that. It was interesting. I don't think I solved any particular problems, but it was fascinating to do it. I went into the desert looking for springs that were rumored to have been on the itinerary. Yeah.
Fascinating. Now, we see pictures of like the Sphinx of Giza, drawings before the lips and nose were knocked off. And there's a lot of conjecture about how that happened, that maybe there was some racist intent, in terms of, the African features of a particular pharaoh or something like that. But also, I've understood that in the Book of the Dead and some of the other elements around ancient Egypt is that there was an afterlife, and that maybe when a pharaoh wanted to harm a previous pharaoh for some reason, they would cut off or knock off lips and nose in order to kill them in the afterlife. Any thoughts on that?
Yes, in fact, that was very common in ancient Egypt. For reasons I guess we don't really understand. In many cases, later pharaohs objected to earlier ones and tried to, as they say, damn their memory by defacing their statues and erasing their cartouche names in inscriptions. Very, very common. It could have been that way with the Sphinx, although I don't think any Egyptologist has seriously suggested that. The stone that the Sphinx is carved from is very unstable. It's surprising to me that more of it has not just fallen down naturally. It has been said that when Napoleon was there, Napoleon, whose forces found the Rosetta Stone, when he was there, one of his artillerymen shot the Sphinx's head. Could be, but as far as an act of racism or anything, there's no reason to think so.
Yeah, I did a lot of research on that. In fact, created a video on it, and I came away, it was inconclusive. I had a lot of evidence of drawings of the Sphinx of Giza over time, and there's definitely something that happened right around 1799, 1800, 1803, right in that range. But I couldn't, completely figure that out.
Right.
Now, I watched a video some years back about a professor from University of or Boston University, I think it was at the time, that he had photographs of the base of the Sphinx of Giza, and he would show this to geologists and ask them what kind of erosion was happening. Was it wind and a combination of wind and sand? Was it water? And everyone to the geologist said that it was water erosion at the base of the Sphinx. And then once they showed him the rest of the stone, that it was the Sphinx of Giza, they went, "Oh, no, it couldn't be." But what are your thoughts on that? Have you wrestled with that at all?
Well, I know Robert Schoch. That's
Hmm.
that's the gentleman you're talking about. I have met with him, and so, oh, maybe 25 years now, maybe more. Uh, the big controversy was that Robert Schoch and some others thought that the erosion of the Sphinx could not be explained by present day, desert climate. And they suggested that the Sphinx was maybe 10,000 years older than Egyptologists say.
Hmm.
And so I and other geologists were brought in to evaluate Schoch's idea, and we came back to the standard explanation. The weathering processes that we see now are entirely capable of producing the degree of weathering that we see on the Sphinx and on the walls of the trench around it. You don't need to push the Sphinx back 10,000 years when that part of the world was much wetter.
Hmm.
I don't think we ever convinced Robert Schoch of that, but um, any reputable geologist would not have agreed with him, and Egyptology certainly never bought into his idea. We think the Sphinx was carved for Khafre, who had the second pyramid built for him. But it's possible that it might be a century or two older, but not 10,000 years.
Hmm. Now, have there ever been any time when you were in a truly uncomfortable, sketchy, risky type situation in any time in a remote area, let's say of Egypt, while you were there?
Well, I was lost in the desert one night, and I was hunted by a pack of wild dogs. Does that qualify?
This definitely does.
Yeah. Or I was exploring some underground limestone quarries in the western desert, and as I walked up this barren valley, there was a tracks from a whole pack of jackals, and the geologists who were with me would go no further, but I insisted on going myself because I was there to make a discovery, and I wasn't going to be turned back by a bunch of puppy dogs, even if they are wolves. And I did go up there, but I was quite anxious. And there were actually jackals in these underground cave-like quarries. And but you see, I thought I knew something about jackals. Actually, I didn't, but I thought I did. And so I went in thinking, oh, they're only dangerous at twilight when they come out and they gather in packs and they hunt. And they had killed a geologist who was a friend of one of the Egyptian geologists with me. So
Oh my goodness!
they're very dangerous. But I
Wow.
said, this was midday. They're in the shadows. They're relaxed. They're not in a pack hunting mode. It's perfectly safe for me to walk among them. Now that's not really true, but I thought it was true, and so I did just that, and I got away with it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So
But
what
the night
happened?
spent of the desert, chased by wild dogs, was the worst by far.
So how did you get out of that? I mean, did they come after you or in any way or threaten you?
Yes. I'd wandered around from my camp, and it was a dark night, cloudy. There was no starlight. The moon was down. It was pitch dark, and I don't see well in the dark. I lost my way. And so I wandered for hours, and at some point admitted to myself, okay, I'm lost. Just lay down and try to, get through this. And as I was laying down, it started to rain, which was a problem. But then I heard the howling of this pack of dogs. The Bedouins had told me, don't go out in the desert after dark because there's a pack of wild dogs. And I thought, oh, really? But it was true. And as I laid there shivering in this cold wind, this time it wasn't summer, it was January. And getting wet, I was listening to these dogs, and they were barking and howling, yelping back and forth as they were honing in on my scent. And
Yes.
I could hear them getting closer and closer. And so all I could do to save myself was to just take off across the desert and hope to get somewhere. And as it happened, I came across this. This was on the Red Sea coast. I came across this high terrace. I was able to climb up to the top, and lucky me, there was an old abandoned Egyptian army bunker.
Wow.
And there was this concrete tower rising out of the bunker, and it had these metal handholds, footholds, and I was able to climb to the top just as the dogs got there.
Wow.
And so it was cold, it was windy, it was rainy, and the dogs were prowling around behind me. And I spent the night up there, and I was miserable. But the sun
But alive.
and and the dogs were nowhere to be seen, at sunrise, and all was well.
Wow. And how far away from the camp were you when you got your bearings?
About 3 miles.
Mm-hmm. Which is a long distance in
a long distance.
desert. Yeah.
And I always thought I had a good sense of direction. I know people get lost, but not me, not that badly. But it can happen to anybody.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
that's quite a story, I'll tell you.
Well, yeah, I've had a lot of guns pointed at me, bandits, soldiers. So yeah, it can be a tricky place to work.
Now, what part do politics and local mores and logistics and permits and all that kind of stuff, how does that play into being a geologist in Egypt?
Well, over there, not so much, there's no political dimension to it, but the problem is the Egyptian bureaucracy. In order to get permission to go into the desert, to get permission to step off of the paved public road, you need written permission from the government. And not just from one agency, from dozens of agencies. And I remember one summer, there was a Dutch geologist who lived in Egypt, and she was getting the desert permits for me. And she apologized when I got there, says, I only got 30 of the permits. I couldn't get them all.
Oh my goodness.
I said, well, try to make do with 30. Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. And of course, I mean, a lot of people just aren't willing to go through all those hoops, and even more people don't know what hoops they need to step through. So if you don't have somebody on the ground there who's really, understands the process, it's hopeless. So, I've been trying to get back in for 4 years, and I'm hoping to be there in March, but the big hang up, and this has been the case for many years, is the Egyptian army. They don't like foreigners traveling in their desert. And so this next time around, I'm sponsored by Cairo University, and I'm hoping that they have enough weight behind them that the army will think I'm okay, and they'll let me in.
I know I made the mistake of taking a picture of a military site.
It is a
and
mistake.
within a minute, they stopped us, and wanted to know who we were and what we're all about. And I was just innocently taking a picture of a site. I didn't know what it was all about. So nothing to mess with.
You don't take pictures of bridges, even if there's no army there. I mean, I remember on one occasion I wanted to go to this site on the Red Sea coast, and I had downloaded from the web satellite photos. So I knew what was there. I plotted out a course, but I needed permission from the local army commander to go. And so I went to his office and I showed him these satellite photos, and he blew up. He said, "How'd you get these? This is a secret area. You can't have these." I said, "It's on the web. Everybody has them." He didn't know, but after he calmed down, he agreed to drive me to these places. We had a good day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, as you look back, and I know you're still doing things, as you said, going again in some months from now to Egypt. What has surprised you the most as you've looked back? We've got about, I'd say, 4 minutes.
Surprised me the most about Egypt or my work there?
Your work there.
The biggest thing is the enormity of the job. when I first went there 37 years ago, I was telling everybody, okay, 4 or 5 visits and I'll have the work done. And now it's 37 years on and I'm not finished. So what surprises me is that there's so much to be discovered. So to date, I have, and I recently published this in a book, that there are several hundred known ancient mines and quarries in Egypt, more than any other country in the world.
Wow.
And we're still counting, and I want to go back in March to find some more. So Egypt is sort of the gift that keeps on giving.
Now, of your research, what do you find, which of your findings in your research and your surveys and all the rest of the things that you've done have you found the most groundbreaking or paradigm shifting, if you will?
Jeez.
And I'll interject something here.
Okay.
I was talking with, when I first got to know who you were, I was calling people and contacting people in Germany and all the rest about the Rosetta Stone to find out what quarry it came from and all these different things. And every person I talked with said, Dr. James Harrell, he's the one. He's the one. And so when someone gave me your contact information, that's how I got to know you, because you are the one that has provided so much groundbreaking information. That's the backdrop to that question.
Well, I've been able to do things that others have not because I sort of push the boundaries of what is doable there. I have a very, very strong sense of mission over there. I want to find the ancient quarries. I want to understand them. I want to bring this information back to the public. And so you sometimes have to maybe go in parts of the desert where the government would rather you didn't go. You have to be aggressive in pursuing, your objectives. And so that is what has allowed me to get to places that other people, would have wished they could have gotten to. And so people are amazed that I've seen as much as I have. That's because I've done it differently than anybody before me attempted to do it. But in the process of doing that, I made, lots of discovery. World's oldest paved road. The author of the world's oldest geological map. Lots and lots of quarries with ruins and inscriptions, that nobody knew existed. One of the more famous things from the earliest part of Egyptian history are stone vessels. The Egyptians had all kinds of colorful, exotic-looking stones. And people thought, they weren't quarried. These were boulders picked up in the desert and then carved. But I've now found 4 quarries, 4 different stones, and that was surprising to a lot of Egyptologists. So maybe not one thing that was, so groundbreaking. It's sort of collectively,
Sure.
I was able to show Egyptology in the world that there's more there than they ever imagined. So,
Well, Jim, in 30 seconds tell us about why you think the Rosetta universe is something that is of interest.
Well, I totally agree with you about how it is symbolic of the need to understand our world and each other. And it's a good metaphor. It's a perfect metaphor for problem solving. The world needs solutions to a lot of really weighty problems. And I'm not sure we're going to get there unless we have a concerted, focused effort at finding a way to arrive at these solutions together.
Yes.
And I think the Rosetta universe is a vehicle for doing that.
Well, Jim, our time is up. I'm so glad we were able to spend this time together.
Enjoy it.
Really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You have just experienced another episode of the Mischief Maker broadcast. Hit the subscribe button. Connect at chiefmischiefmaker.com. Thanks for coming along for the ride.